This is TWiT.
I spent, as Jeff knows, I spent a lot of time after, Mondo 2000 was basically usurped by Wired magazine.
Right.
And the story of the unbridled collective imagination was kind of replaced with the story of how are we going to make people more predictable through stickiness and surveillance in order to make more money. And so I took it really personally, I guess, that these tools that were made for people to use were now being used on people. And I wrote a lot about that and blamed rapacious venture capitalism for it almost entirely. Some great kid is at Stanford in their dorm room, come up with an idea. The venture capitalist comes up, come on, kid, leave school in freshman year and, transfer parental authority onto me and pivot your company a little bit away from that good for people thing and more for the get from people thing. But now that I look back on it, it's not just the money, that the way we develop technology from the beginning, way back, has something to do with a kind of a nerdy isolation and fear. I remember I was with Timothy Leary when he was reading Stuart Brand's book on the Media Lab. Remember the Media Lab?
Oh, yeah.
Negroponte and Media Lab.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting I have it here. I was just, where is it?
This is a great book. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great book. And
look
Timothy,
at that, underlined heavily. Yeah.
he was underlining, reading. I mean, he's read it all in an afternoon, and I'm sitting there probably high or something, but or doing whatever I'm doing. And he's writing all this stuff.
You had tuned in and dropped out at the time.
I had dropped out. So he's writing all this stuff, and then I'm thinking he's going to say, "Oh my God, this is the next great thing." And he finishes the book, and he goes, "Blah!" and he throws it across the room. He breaks the binding. I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "First thing." Only 2% of the names in the index are women. What's with that?
Good for you.
And that's early, right?
Yeah.
To say that in 92.
Right
and then he
on.
says, second, he goes, these guys, their mothers were unable to anticipate their every need. And now what they want to do is recreate. They want to recreate the womb with technology and have robots and algorithms anticipate what they need before they know what they want and bring it to them. And it's because they're afraid of women and they're afraid of people and they're going to build these bubbles and leave us all behind. I was like, damn. Where'd we go, right? Now we went, he ended up being right. And the kind of the Peter Thiel 0 to 1 or Mark Zuckerberg going meta or everybody doing a derivative of a derivative of a derivative is that escapism. I mean, that's what I'm writing about in the book, really. It's not just billionaires running to bunkers, but the kind of the escapist urge underlying so much of digital technology, because digital is a map. It's a symbol system. It's one level removed from on the ground reality, which is why it's so tempting to use it to get away from all that scary stuff like nature and women and relationship and humans.
So when you're talking about escape fantasies of the tech billionaires, it's not just to recondition Minuteman silos, waiting for the final days that, by the way, which you point out they brought on.
Yeah. I mean, there is that. Just on the most rudimentary level, what I'm really talking about is that these guys want to kind of earn enough money to insulate themselves from the reality they're creating by earning money in that way. Right. It's like, how can I build a car that goes fast enough to escape from my own exhaust? And that's the justification, that the kind of the insulation calculation that the Epson printer executive makes when he decides, well, we're going to brick these printers after 5,000 pages and make people throw them in a toxic waste dump. I know I'm destroying the world, but my margin's good enough that I'm going to be able to get on a mountain somewhere away from the climate change. So that's sort of the initial premise. But where I go is to is not just the escape plans of these billionaires like Thiel who want to go to New Zealand, or Bezos who wants to get off the planet in the ultimate fantasy of white flight, right? It's not just that. It's
ride your penis rocket to somewhere where there are no underclasses.
I know. Did you see Stephanie Ruhle? I used to love her. I guess I still do. Stephanie Ruhle on MSNBC, when he landed, she's like, "Oh my God, Jeff! What you did?" And I'm like, what are we celebrating here? We're celebrating something. We did that 60 years ago.
Rich guys playing with their rich toys.
Exactly. That one person can now do what we could do collectively 60 years ago, right? Who's winning the space race?
My point
Us
exactly.
or him?
Yes, they're not astronauts. they're just flying their way to their little penis rockets to incel land.
Yeah.
You call it the mindset, this Silicon Valley mindset.
Yeah. So for our audience, Douglas, tell the story of that you told in the excerpt that's been printed of the meeting.
Well, like you guys, anyone who writes about tech is considered a futurist, right? I'm really just a presentist, but if people aren't watching, they have no idea what's going on. So, they're just late. So I get called to do these talks, sometimes high paid ones, which then gets me out of my bunker, my own bunker here, my intellectual social bunker.
I might add is well equipped with comic books. Very important. But go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you can see the...
the audience has picked up on that immediately. You're a graphic novelist as well, but we'll talk.
Those are my comic books,
those are yours.
Actually. Yeah.
We'll save that for later.
All right, I'll bring them out. We can read them together.
That would be fun.
But I try not to do these talks, come talk about the digital future for this group of business people. But, they're paying good money and money talks, and so do I. So I got on a plane, business class, warm nuts, the whole thing, and go out to they have you've flown business class and warm nuts?
Warm nuts.
Who thought?
Yeah.
I'm still amazed. Who thought of that? Who thought?
How can we make
nuts
a little extra special? Because the people
New
back
York
there,
City,
they're eating them out of foil packets.
New York City thought of it.
Right,
Every fifth corner,
no.
There's not just warm nuts, it's warm nuts with candy.
This is not like the candied peanuts you get for $1.50 wrapped in paper in New York City.
That's the thing. It is, nice, but they make it feel
ceramic bowl, recently warmed.
Right, with almonds, a couple of cashews, and
a couple of cashews in there.
No peanuts, never peanuts.
Yeah.
No, those are cheap. So anyway, and they're legumes. They're not real nuts, apparently. It's a whole thing. Did you know that?
Yes.
They're not, I don't know. Someone told me they're not nuts.
They're not nuts.
It's very confusing.
They're legumes.
Yeah.
So anyway, you're on your way in this business class.
I go there.
Yes.
Yeah. I go out there, way out into the desert, like driving 3 hours after I get out of the airport. I'm thinking, what the heck? What rich people are going to go this far? And just as I get to the resort, I see these G5 airplanes landing on this private airstrip thing. I'm like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? So the next morning, they come in a golf cart and bring me out to this like little pavilion in my green room, like trying to practice, my best Marxism to throw at these guys. And they bring the 5 guys into the green room, right? They don't even mic me up. They don't take me anywhere. It's just 5 men. 2 or 3 of them actually were verified billionaires. Right? And they sit there and they start peppering me with all these questions about the digital future, like, Bitcoin or Ethereum, virtual reality or augmented reality. I'm like, don't come to me. I said Betamax over VHS, right? I'm not the guy. I'm not the guy to ask if you want to place your bet. But then finally they got to the question, Alaska or New Zealand. And the whole rest of the hour was spent on questions like, how do I, well, actually, I asked them this. They started to talk about their bunkers, where they're putting them and whether they're going to protect them from the event. And the event for them is the pandemic, the global warming, the climate crisis, the social unrest, the economic turnaround. Exactly. Nuclear disaster, nano, AI, whatever it is.
Gray goo.
There you gray goo. And will it protect them? And then they started talking about how they've got Navy SEALs, to come as to guard them from the likes of us, because we don't have these bunkers. And I remember, first, all of them talked about Navy SEALs. None of them talked about Army Rangers. And if I was going to have a bunker, I'd go with Army Rangers.
Why? Because they're
not on
land-based. They're land-based. Yeah.
Thank you.
Just
but the rising tides, I guess. Yeah.
Completely parenthetically.
Yeah.
I don't think any humans with guns are a good idea, because as they're quickly going to learn that the guys in the bunker have all the resources. Screw this. We're going in, and they've got the guns. What makes you think the Rangers or the SEALs are going to be any less dangerous to you? Which is why, by the way, and it's one of our stories today, the Israelis have figured out how to do autonomous gun turrets shooting at Palestinians.
There you go.
This is what we've needed all along, was AI protection.
It's 1917 and the Tsar.
Yeah. Because honestly, if you're going to protect yourself from the end times in a bunker, you can't let your guards be humans. You need AI to do it.
Exactly, and that's what I hit them with. I gave them basically, a
roadmap.
No,
thanks, Douglas.
No, I said exactly what you said. I said, why do you think these Navy SEALs are going to protect you once your money is worthless?
Yeah.
If the world is over, even if you got Bitcoin, what are you paying them with?
Yeah.
And there's like one guy opens his little, moleskin. He's like, figure out how to. Right. This is a billionaire, right? What am I sitting here with $300,000 or whatever in my retirement account that they say I can't retire on? What is this? So, and then we spend the rest of the hour on that single question. It's like, well, what if we had, implants that sort of decide where people can go, but then we could use them to shock people or prevent them? Or what if I'm the only guy who knows the combination on the safe for the food? Or what if we bring in their families? And I'm like, and finally I say, well, look, the way to make sure these guards don't kill you in the apocalypse is why don't you try to be nice to them now? And I ended it. I said to them, why don't you go find your head of security and pay for his daughter's bat mitzvah
There
today.
you go. There you go.
It'll be hard for him to shoot you between the eyes later.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did that then lead to the book? What was the process there?
Well, I mean, I left that thing in a state of shock, right? And a little upset, actually, that the wealthiest and most powerful people I had ever been in a room with feel utterly helpless to affect the future. The best they can do is, wait for the inevitable event and just hang on for dear life and leave us all behind, right? And continue doing the worst possible things to us in order to earn enough money to insulate themselves from us when the bad stuff happens. And I start tripping out on Thomas Jefferson and the dumbwaiter and the history of technologies that look like they were there to help people do things like, that's so his enslaved servants won't have to trudge up the steps with all the food. It's like, no, you look at Monticello, look at the tunnels the enslaved people had to walk through, and they had to walk up like 4 flights of stairs till they get to the dumbwaiter, which is 1 flight below the dining room, right? And then you bring it up and it opens up like a replicator on Star Trek. But what they're really doing, they're not trying to save the enslaved people labor. They're trying to save themselves having to witness the enslaved person, right? The technology doesn't replace the labor in that case. It just distances the wealthy from the labor, right? Amazon automatic T-shirts. You still got people, picking the cotton and getting the rare earth metals for the robots that are making, or 3D printing your T-shirt. So there was that, and I ended up writing an article on Medium about this. What happened? My encounter with these billionaires and this technological insulation equation, I was calling it, and I got this flurry of emails. Not so much from people who are upset as from the people who sell survival equipment to the billionaires. Like 3 different people with bunkers, a guy who's got farms people can invest in. It's like, introduce me. I've got the product. And I'm like, or people who wanted bunker expertise from me. Like more billionaires are like, can you come talk to me about my bunker?
You've become the bunker man.
I know, wow. I don't know anything about bunkers. I'm an anarcho-syndicalist media theorist. I don't know. I'm going to be the first one now,
Douglas? Don't you kind of secretly want your own bunker now?
I got 5 gallons of Poland Spring in the basement.
That's all you need, man. You're set.
I am ready for it, and a box of Band-Aids. I'm good.